And we're live. Let me do my technology check right quick before we get started. I have to go through the motions because you, technology sometimes is not reliable. Okay, so I'm live on Twitter. Let me check Facebook. And we are in business. Yes. We're in business. Good evening. I want to make sure that you all can hear me. So if any time you can't hear me, please let me know because sometimes, like I said, with technology, it may or may not work, and I have been known to leave my um, my microphone off. I did that one time. So all right, so for those of you all who are new to my page, my name is Michelle Williams, and I go by the Ignited Teacher here on social media. And I use my page to help teachers of high need students, meaning your 504 students, your special ed students, and students that are below grade level or just struggling learners in general. I help those teachers effectively manage their classrooms and increase student achievement. So that's what I do here. And my focus on my page or any of my social media outlets is classroom management, technology for underserved populations, as well as mathematics. And that's what I do here on this page. So before we get started on day two's challenge, I want, if you could share this with a teacher, go ahead and share or tag a teacher, someone who would definitely benefit from um, tonight's live stream, because what I'm going to talk about, a lot of people have been liking the post and today's daily task. And I really like this topic tonight because it talks about things that we don't generally talk about when we talk about classroom management. Now, today's daily task for our Take Back Your Classroom challenge or the classroom management challenge, we were talking, you were supposed to reflect on some things that you do in your classroom and how you would, well, take a scenario on how you would use one of the actionable behaviors that I gave you today to get your classroom and reel those children back in. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. And we are in Classroom Management Challenge day 2. So the question I asked, well, who's in control of your classroom? And last week I had a webinar and there was a teacher on there and he was like, he has no control over the classroom. And I'm not talking about control in the sense that, oh, kind of overbearing. Control meaning like who sets the tone for the classroom? Are the children setting the tone for the classroom? Or are you setting a tone, or are the children driving classroom management? Now, there's a difference in student centered learning and activities and classroom management. And I know that some teachers get confused, especially new teachers, where they say, well, you're supposed to involve the kids in everything. Well, we're going to talk about some research tonight from Robert Mazzano, and it comes from his book, Classroom Management That Works. It's some research that some colleagues, I guess in the research industry, and well, educational research, where they found out what students actually like. So let's go and get started. I'm starting with this quote from Robert Marzano, and he talks about the teacher is probably the single most important factor affecting student achievement, at least the single most important factor that we can do much about. So we really can't change like students' home lives unless you're willing to adopt them or take them home with you. The thing that we can control is what we do every day. And I say we because I am a classroom teacher as well. So I'm including myself on that. Now, there's an impact that we have on classroom management. And classroom management, it is taught when you're taught by teachers who are most effective classroom managers, you can expect to get a 52% gain in a year's time. And I can say that to be true. I've been teaching for 18 years, and my students generally make significant gains. They do every year. And it has to do with a couple of things, but I think most because of the management and the use of time. And that's what I can say partly attributes to my students getting things done and making the necessary gains, which we'll call that time on task. Now, the opposite is true if students are taught by teachers who are least effective classroom managers, can be expected to gain 14 points in a year's time. So a teacher who is highly effective with classroom management, they can expect to, we'll say that's what, 38 points less than a teacher that's effective. Now, you could be struggling with classroom management and still make some gains because some children are going to learn. That's just the fact of the matter. And but it's not going to be to the potential that you should get it with that person, that teacher that who's in a more effective classroom manager. Now, this is a picture of me long time ago. I guess it's been about 5 or 6 years. That's one of my students looking at me actually teach. Now, control is you can see it, the power to influence or direct people's behavior or the course of events. Because I got something. Oh, yes. One of the persons on Twitter said true. Who's in control? Now, we have students, and you're going to have classrooms where different demographics, period, especially in middle and high school, you have the kids that rule the coop, and that's just bottom line. Last year we had children we had 3 sections of math, and we had 3 different classrooms, but we had one little boy who ruled all of 5th grade. And everybody was scared of him, and it was just a mess. But we had to get him under control and get him on our side so we could get the other children to calm down. Because if he was in uproar, everybody was in uproar. And then it didn't help that he kept up a lot of confusion on our grade level. So this is the question you're asking yourself. Do you have the power to influence your students' behavior or even to influence the course of events? Those course of events can be teaching, it can be learning, it can get them to cooperate. Do you have that type of control? So this is the control we're talking about as it pertains to education. We're not talking about children being puppets. So that's what I want you to keep, that frame of mind. Control, can you influence your students? And only you know whether or not you can. Now, for me, most of the time, I can say that I can influence my students. But it has been intentional over time. Yesterday, if you were on a live stream, we talked about and we reflective practice and the reflective cycle, teach, learn, reflect. And one of those things in the reflective cycle was to act intentionally. And that's what I do now, since I'm more mature as a teacher. I act with intention. Everything that I do is for the overarching goal, is to teach and to have the children participate in teaching and learn in the learning process. Now, this comes from Wubbles and Levy. They had they did some research on appropriate levels of dominance. Now, I know there are some bleeding hearts. If you've ever done the True Colors Challenge, you have those blue people who will say dominance. Oh my God, you're talking about I'm supposed to dominate the children? No, I'm not saying that you're supposed to dominate the children. I am saying that you have to be able to set the tone in your classroom. The children should know that you're there. Like for me, I'm consistent with my students. That's one thing I am. I had one of my coworkers. She said I structure my children to death. Well, the structure sends the message that hey, we have business to take care of. So that's what that means. Now, appropriate level of dominance is not dominance in the sense in a negative connotation. It's just an important characteristic of effective student teacher or teacher student relationships. It's your ability to provide clear purpose and strong guidance regarding both academics and student behavior. And a lot of my students, yeah, consistency does matter. A lot of the teachers that I have supported, even on the webinar that I had on Sunday, that was the biggest issue: consistency. And the last bullet says there was a study where there were 700 students in grades 4 through 7, and they articulated, meaning they said that they would rather a teacher be strong and have control rather than the more permissive type. And the permissive types are the ones, the teachers that are trying to be your friends. And I know the kids like that, but at the end of the day, your little darlings will turn on you. They will, because children know when they're supposed to toe the line, and they appreciate. Now, they might not like it, but they'll appreciate it in the long run. They do not appreciate teachers who are trying to be friends or be friendly. Now, I'm not saying be ugly with the children, but there should be a clear line drawn between the student and the teacher. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have all these issues with a lot of teachers in the media, because there's no boundary anymore between teacher and student. You are not the children's friend. At the end of the day, the children will turn on you. They will say, well, you're the adult. We see it all the time in the media when a teacher finally is at their wits' end, you cannot win. So I'm telling you today, there should be a clear line, and you should have an appropriate level of dominance, meaning that, hey, I am the teacher, you're the student, but there's a relationship, even with your own children. My son, we have a really good relationship. But at the end of the day, I'm still the parent. We can talk about things, and you can teach that to your children. I teach it to my fifth graders. You're respectful. I'm going to listen to what you say, but at the end of the conversation, I'm going to make a decision, and that's going to be the end of it. And the kids will appreciate that once you have done that and had that clear boundary. Now, here are some things that, some specific actionable behaviors that you can take back to your classroom once you go back after the end of the school, after the break. because I know there are some teachers that are going back on the second. I don't have to go back until the 7th. I didn't even know teachers went back on the second, the day after um, New Year. I didn't know that. So the first bullet is to be assertive. And you're probably saying, well, what is assertive? Assertive is using the correct tone and body language. If you are addressing inappropriate behavior, your face should be that way. Your tone should say that I'm serious. Um, and say what you mean and mean what you say. Let your no mean no, not yes sometimes, because teachers get caught up because the kids, they, you like them and you really care about them, but your goal is to teach. That is what we are there for. We are there to educate our students, and we have relationships with them, but at the same time, when we're talking about classroom management and discipline, we are teaching them about discipline and behaviors. So if you're constantly riding the fence, oh yes, this time, and no this time, you're going to have a problem. Because what's going to happen is the children, like I said, they're going to turn on you. And if something happens, the kids are going to say, well, she doesn't mean what she says. I've seen it happen so many times to teachers. So let your no mean no, not yes sometimes. The next bullet is provide clear expectations and consequence for behavior. I'm going to give you this example. And I think I brought it up in the webinar. I had a little girl. I teach 5th grade. And 5th grade is they tap dance on your nerves because they're close to middle school. So she would yell out. She would do all kind of foolery in class. So I said, okay. Yes. So I talked to the teachers, her special teachers, music, art, PE, and I told them, I said she will not be available until she gets her behavior together in my classroom. And I swear the girl had gotten to the point where she would take a nap during those 45 minutes, because I told her she would be an eclipse until she got her behavior together. An eclipse comes out every now and again. That's what she would be in her special classes. She would never go again, because I had to let her know that I'm in business. And even in Marzano's research, he talks about your mental state. You have to be able to weather the storms with children. If you have your own kids, and I know teachers have this, I don't know why teachers put their personal children on pedestals, because I done seen some horrible teachers' kids. And I'm going to say that here on this social media. And I've taught some of my colleagues' children. Not that they were horrible, but children are not perfect. Your children are not perfect, and the ones that you teach are not perfect. Kids will talk back. Your own children talk back to you. My son does it. He's done it before. So let's not pretend that we have these great children. Teachers' kids and preachers' kids. They talk about them all the time. I grew up in the church, so PK, TK, that's what they call them, were always in trouble because there's this stigma that they're supposed to be great. My son wasn't that great. He wasn't. So, let's be honest about what we're dealing with at school. And then if you don't have any children, you probably have some nieces and nephews that are horrible. But they're children, and they're not horrible the rest of their lives. My son is living proof. I thought I was going to have to murder him when he was in high school. But he's about to be 25 next month, and I can tell you he's a totally different child. So it's not that you're seeing these children at one point in their lives. Some of them, we can't save them all. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not going to even tell you anything different. We're not going to save all of them. But the ones we can save, those are the ones we need to save. But don't expect them to have this great behavior. Because I tell my students, I said, I know that you're going to get in trouble at some point in time, but you shouldn't be getting in trouble every day. There's a difference. But definitely provide clear expectations and consequences. Whatever you have consequences, whatever they are, Be consistent with them. My son made it to 21 is completely different. Yes. I when my son was 15, I thought I was going to have to take him out because he was so selfish. Everything was about him, nobody else. Um, but definitely provide those clear expectations, because if you don't, the children will run away with your classroom. And if your classroom is out of control, these are some steps that you can take. The first day that you walk into that classroom, I greet my students every morning. Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. I set the tone. But when they come in, it's business, time on task. And that's what it is. Your routines and procedures, and I'm going to get back to them. Routines and procedures, they will save your classroom, because the kids have an expectation of what should be done. And if you're consistent with it, there's no downtime. And if you're struggling with routines and procedures, I have a classroom management course that will help you with that. And my class, like I told you, I have high structure, and they will teach you in classroom management courses. When you have a class with a lot of high needs and different needs, you need to have high structure and be consistent with it. Do not be one day you come in, and I'm not saying some days you not gonna have downtime, but I had a dean of instruction tell me, she said, you know, your downtime is the students' uptime. And you are exactly right. But she was exactly right, because as soon as you sit down and turn your back, you have a couple of kids that are always going to be doing something when they're not supposed to. So let me go ahead and go back to so that's where we are today, and that's what I talk about, who's in control of your classroom. That's why I asked that question. Are you in control? Do the kids know that, what clear expectations? Children should know what they have to do every moment of the day in that classroom. Now, I know your principals, they come in and they always catch that one student is off task. It happens. It happens to me. But you know what? I start my school year off with, let me tell you something. If someone comes in here, your objective is on the board. We have Google Classroom. They have an agenda. I said, y'all better look at that board. Even if you don't know what we're doing, look at the board and read it. So you have to, those are my expectations, because there's no reason why they should know what we're working on. It's on the board. I state the objective. I talk about it throughout the lesson. That that's the expectation. And you have to be firm. And my mother told me this: firm, fair, and consistent. And as much as I hate to say she was right, yes, firm, fair, and consistent. And that's what is going to take your classroom management, and you take control of your classroom once you get back after the break. So, if you have not um, commented on today's Facebook post, please do go over there. I would love to see what you're thinking about the post, how you would handle these things, how you would implement these things in your classroom, whether you disagree, agree with me or not. I mean, that's fine with me. But it's about dialogue and getting teachers to talk about things that, and have honest conversations about these things. You're not the student's friends. There needs to be a boundary. And if you have not established that boundary, establish it when you get back from the holidays. So that's all I have for you all today. Again, if there's a teacher that will benefit from this, please tag them, share it on their page, send it to their messenger, email it to them, and I will see you all tomorrow on tomorrow's live stream. Bye-bye.